Hello. Hey there. Ever heard of True Crime and Paranormal Podcast Festival? It is the first and only festival that puts ethics and advocacy front and center in the true crime and paranormal content creation space. Families and survivors guide the mission, making it a safe, inclusive space for everyone. This year it's happening July 12th to the 14th, 2024 in Denver, Colorado, which I am super excited about. I had the most amazing time when I attended in Austin, also in Dallas. Last time in Austin, I was able to share a panel with none other than Robin Water from the Trail Went Cold podcast, and I got to meet in Dallas Julie Murray, the sister of Maura Murray, which was amazing. She's a wonderful woman. If and that's just a small part of what happens at this festival. Trust me, it's an event you don't want to miss. My friend Laney Hobbs, the co-founder and seasoned true crime creator, is the driving force behind TCPF, True Crime Paranormal Festival. She's dedicated to advocacy and uplifting the stories of survivors and victims. Her passion has truly shaped the festival into something extraordinary. And here's the kicker. Unlike those pricey events that pack you into a cramped room just for a glimpse of a celebrity, True Crime Podcast and Paranormal Festival stands out with its low cost and intimate atmosphere, which is true. You get to meet everybody, to include me, delivering exceptional value. So, ready for an unforgettable experience? Join me at the podcast festival. Get your tickets at True Crime Paranormal Podcast Festival, where ethics, advocacy, and incredible stories take center stage. And you might see me on a panel with Nina Instead from the Trail When Cold. Not the Trail When Cold, but Already Gone podcast. But Robin Warner will probably be there too. He's there every year. Take care. Hope to see you there. The Fort Worth missing trio refers to an unsolved missing person case in which three girls, Mary Rachel Trlica, Lisa Renee Williams, and Julie Ann Moseley, went missing while shopping at the Seminary South Shopping Center in Fort Worth, Texas, on December 23rd, 1974. The car that the girls had been driving was left behind in the parking lot at the mall, and the girls themselves were never seen since. Hello, thank you for joining me. I am Gary Howard, and this is Unsolved Missing Person podcast that I created, branched off a truck stop murder. So if you haven't listened to that, go check that out. Also, at the beginning of this, I played an ad for the True Crime Paranormal Podcast Festival, and it will be in Denver. All the information is right there. I'll put a link in the description. So today we're talking about the Fort Worth missing trio, as I said. The case shocked Fort Worth community and left the families of the girls to adjust to life without their children. Thousands of leads have been filed, dozens of searches completed, and hundreds of people interviewed. All attempts to find the girls have proven fruitless. The older of the girls, Mary Rachel Trlica, was 17 at the time of her disappearance. She is known by her middle name of Rachel. She was a white female who at the time was 5'6". That's a 1.68 meters. Well, I'll just leave it standard. In height, 108 pounds, with long brown hair, green eyes, a chipped upper front tooth, a small scar on her chin. She was a married high school student at Southwest High School in Fort Worth and drove a 1972 Oldsmobile 98. The car the girls took to the mall on the day of the disappearance. At the time she vanished, Rachel had been married to her husband, Tommy Trlica, for about 6 months and wore a wedding ring. Lisa Renee Wilson was 14 at the time of her disappearance. She is known to go by her middle name, Renee. She's a fair-skinned white female who at the time was 5'2" in height and 110 pounds, with light wavy brown hair, brown eyes, and a scar on the inside of one of her thighs. Clothing she was known to be wearing was, when she disappeared, included bluish purple hip hugger pants, a white pullover sweatshirt with "Sweet Honesty" in green letters written on it. Some have been reported at least pale yellow t-shirt with green letters, red and white Oxford shoes, and a promise ring with a single clear stone in it. Now youngest of the girls, Julie Ann Moseley, was age 9 at the time of the disappearance. She is a white female who at the time was 4'3" in height and 85 pounds. With shoulder length sandy blonde hair and blue eyes, she has a small scar under her left eye, a scar in the middle of her forehead, and a scar on the back of her calf. Clothing she was wearing was known at the time of the disappearance included a red shirt, dark jeans, and red tennis shoes. So now we have an understanding of what the girls looked like that day, what they're wearing, everything. So on the morning of December 23rd, 1974, a little bit before noon, the three girls set out Christmas shopping. Moseley asked to tag along at the last minute because she didn't want to spend the day alone. On being told that she would need to get permission to go, she ran inside her home, asked her mother, Renee, Renea, Raya, Rayanne, okay, that's what it is, Moseley, if she could tag along. Moseley would later recall, I was working for the electric contractor, and my husband and I were separated. It was a bitter, bitter time. I remember that Julie called and wanted to go to the Seminary South. I said, no, you don't have any money. You just stay home. I knew Renee and her mother, but I really didn't know Rachel. But Julie, kept whining about how she really wanted to go along play with. She wouldn't have anybody to play with. She said I finally gave in, but I told her to come home by 6. The older girl, specifically Renee, wanted to be back by 4 p.m. because Renee had a Christmas party she wanted to attend with her new boyfriend who had given her the promise ring that morning, and she wanted plenty of time to get ready. The girls first headed to a surplus store in Fort Worth to pick up some layaway items that Renee had waiting. From there, they headed to the Seminary South Shopping Center. Several witnesses had reported seeing the girls in the mall that day. When the girls did not return home, their families became concerned and traveled to the mall in search of them. They arrived at 6 p.m. that evening to find their car parked in Sears' upper level parking lot. It appeared that the girls had made it back to the car that afternoon as the gifts they had purchased was found in the car. The family stayed at the mall all night waiting for the girls to return. When the girls failed to turn up, the police were called and the case was quickly handed to the Youth Division of Fort Worth Police Department, Missing Persons Bureau. The girls were presumed to be runaways by investigators. The next day, Tommy Trlica, Rachel's husband, received a letter that appeared to have been written by her. It read, I know I'm going to catch it, but we had to get away. We're going to Houston. See you about a week. The car's at Sears upper lot. Love, Rachel. While the addressed envelope was written in pencil, the letter itself was written in ink on a sheet of paper that was wider than the envelope. It was addressed to Thomas A. Trlica instead of, hopefully I'm saying that right, instead of less formal Tommy or Rachel normally called him. Rachel was written in the upper left corner of the envelope. It appeared to be initially misspelled as the I in her name was written in lowercase e. But then it had been gone over again to form the correct I. The postmark did not contain a city, only a blurred zip code that appeared to be 76083. The number 3 appeared to either be backwards as though it was applied by a hand-loaded stamp. It's a partial 8. It is assumed that the zip code was meant to be either 76038, which comes from Ellisville, Texas, 76088, which comes from Weatherford, Texas. Subsequent decades, handwriting experts across the nation, included from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, have yielded inclusive inconclusive results as the legacy of the letter. Despite receiving the letter, the girl's family did not believe that it was written by Rachel, nor that girls had run away, or nor the girls had ran away. Judy Ann Moseley's mother, Rayam, stated, "I know my daughter. I know those other girls, and they are not runaways." Julie Wilson, Renee's mother, stated, "I could have told you that night that they did not run away. Wanted to go to the party. Renee wanted to go to the party, and no 9-year-old is going to run off 2 days before Christmas," which she, everybody knows that. Frances Langston, Rachel's mother, believed the girls had been abducted, saying a lot of people think they left with somebody they knew, but I'll be always think until the day I die that the girls were taken. Not willing to give in, the families continued their search by distributing missing person flyers throughout the state and contacted newspapers across the country. Eventually, tips began to come in and witnesses began to come forward. In early 1975, one young man claiming to be acquaintance of Rachel stepped forward and claimed that he saw the three girls in the record department of the store inside the mall just before they disappeared. Apparently, he and Rachel saw each other and spoke briefly. The man claimed that another person appeared to be with the girls. During this time, some women's clothes was found in Justin, Texas, but it was determined that they did not belong to any of the girls. Frustrated with the police investigation, the families decided to hire a private detective named John Swime, Jon, Joan Swime, in August of 1975. Swime discovered that a 28-year-old man who had worked for a local store with Rachel, where Rachel had applied for a job before her disappearance, was making a string of obscene phone calls in the area. It was discovered that the man was using his position to obtain information from young women who had either submitted job applications or been listed as a reference. 6 female job applicants had been receiving obscene phone calls. The man also once lived in the neighborhood of Rachel's parents, but moved away shortly before Rachel married. In the end, nothing came out of the investigation there either. In April 1975, Swime went to Port Lavaca, Texas, with 100 volunteers to search under local bridges after receiving a tip that the girls had been killed and taken there. However, no trace of the girls was found. A year later, 3 skeletons were found in a field in Brazoria County by a drilling crew. Swime had the bones compared to x-rays and dental records of the girls, but it turned out that the bones belonged to a teenage boy, about 15 to 17 years old, and 2 other females who were not identified as being any of the girls. So another case that I might be talking about soon. In March of 1976, a psychic called one of the families and told them that the girls could be found near an oil well. For reasons that are unclear, the searchers focused on the small community of Rising Star, Texas, but nothing was ever found there either. 1979, Swam died following a drug overdose. His death was ruled to be suicide. Upon his death, he ordered that all his files on the case be destroyed for some reason. I don't know why. But yeah, in the spring of 1981, police investigators were called to locate a Brazoria County after human remains had been found in a swampy area. After a month of investigation, they discovered that the bones did not belong to the girls. In January 2001, the case was reopened, assigned to homicide detective Tom Boycher, who believes that the girl left the mall with someone they were trusted. Said, "We can say that they were at one point seen with one individual, but we believe there was more than just one person." In 2018, two cars was raised from the Binbrook Lake because they were thought to have a connection to the case. These efforts, however, yielded no results. Over the years, investigators have continued to comb through Texas and have explored hundreds of back roads. The families have walked creeks, beds, and country roads, coming up with nothing every time. Decades after the disappearance, there has been no reports and no new developments in the case. And if Robin Warder was here, he would say, "And the trail went cold." Hopefully, you don't mind me doing that. So let's talk about other possible witnesses. A store clerk came forward around the time of the girls' disappearance and said a woman told her that she had seen the girls at the mall that day. The woman reported that she saw three girls being forced into a yellow pickup truck near Buddy's grocery store at the mall. The truck was described as having lights on top. The witnesses could never be located by police, and the story was never verified. In 1981, years after the disappearance, a man said he had been in the parking lot that day and seen a man forcing a girl into a van. The man in the van told him it was a family dispute and stay out of it. Mind your own business. April 2001, Bill Hutchins, a former Fort Worth police officer and security guard at the Seminary South Sears outlet, said that he saw the three girls with a security guard on that night they disappeared. Let me read that again. Said that he saw the three girls with a security guard on the night. Who is this security guard? So, and as of right now, this case is still unsolved. They don't know where the girls are at. So I know it's been a while. This is going on almost 50 years. And I know a lot of people probably think that they have a past or something like that, but the weirder things happen. You know, a lot of people get kidnapped just up in, I can't think of his name right now. He kidnapped them three girls that was there for a long time. So they could still be alive. And if you know any information about this, you could contact the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children at 800-843-5678. The lost at 1-800 THE dash lost. But like I said, the number is 1-800-843-5678. Or you could go to call the Fort Worth Police Department and they will point you in the right direction. So there you go. There's missing Fort Worth 3. Hope you maybe can help out. Maybe you could be that person who could help find out what happened to these girls. If you are, there you go. And also join me at the Podcast Paranormal Festival in Denver. And I have a Facebook group now, so you could join me. I'm going to be posting pictures of different, missing and unsolved cases that don't really have much information, but still needs to be addressed. You could join my group. I'll start putting out invitations. Also, my podcast, Truck Stop Murder and True Crime Podcast, which is more solved cases, where this podcast is going to be unsolved and missing people. So, hope forward to see you in Denver, and hope you come back. Furthermore, let's help fulfill these trips so we don't have no missing miles. Deliver on time.